We have spent quite a bit of time talking about our terrestrial biomes. We have a few more to go. We have 3, I believe: temperate rainforests, deserts, and deciduous forests. And today we're going to talk about the temperate rainforest and hopefully one more. Temperate rainforests are found along the coast in the temperate regions. Now, temperate means not super hot, not super cold. The largest temperate rainforests are on the Pacific coast in North America. That's like Northern California, up into Oregon and Washington are some of our temperate rainforests. Going up to Alaska and, again, like I said, Oregon. Other temperate rainforests are found in Chile, United Kingdom, Norway, Japan, New Zealand, South Australia. Do you have to memorize all that? No. I'm glad you're starting to recognize the stuff that we need to write down and the stuff that we don't. You don't need to memorize 30 degrees north and 30 degrees south latitude. You don't have to know that it covers 6 to 7% of the Earth's land surface. That's not a whole lot, right? That's a pretty small percentage when we start breaking down temperate rainforest. What do you notice a lot of in this picture in the background? It's that new word on our vocabulary this week, Nolan. Lots and lots and lots of moss. Now do you understand why that's one of the vocabulary words this week? Temperate rainforest climate are these things that we probably need to jot down. Some of it, most definitely. Temperate rainforests are wet, not as bad, not the 400 inches of rain that we get in the tropical rainforest. They only get 200 inches of rain a year on a good, like, super rainy year. Only 200 inches of rain each year. Again, some of the moisture that falls and gets into these rainforests comes from the fog. It gets super foggy, and that fog drifts through. And it's a really amazing thing that they've started to do, Brandon. They are using these nets to catch the fog. And I've seen this happen on my tent before because fog is tiny little water droplets. Fog's a low-lying cloud. And when it goes through like that, like the mesh of your tent, little water droplets catch. They're using these nets to catch fog in some places that don't have a lot of water. And then that's dripping down into places so they have a little bit more water. It's kind of amazing how they do that. Fog provides 7 to 12 inches of rain a year. I know that's a lot of, I've seen it be foggy, and I've gone outside and the grass is wet when it's foggy outside, but 7 to 12 inches, it stays foggy a lot there. Temperate rainforests are a lot cooler than tropical rainforests. So today you're going to be asked to make a video in Flipgrid at some point, and it's going to ask you to compare and contrast different biomes. You could most definitely do tropical rainforest and temperate rainforest, and one of the things that is different, they do both get a lot of rain, but one is really hot and humid because it's near the equator. The other one is not. It's a lot cooler. Very mild temperatures. You have 2 distinct seasons. You have a long, wet winter and a very short, dry summer. Now, that long, wet winter and short, dry summer sounds familiar to some other places that we've seen, right? Glenn? If you live in the temperate rainforest and you are a plant, you must have some very specific adaptations. Moss, ferns, remember those? They love damp, wet places that are kind of shady. This is a great place for them to grow. Lichens hang around. You can see all the moss and things hanging off of these trees, and it does look kind of like a jungle when you look through there. It's so green. Huge, and I mean very huge, old trees live there. Many of these trees are hundreds of years old. They can get 250 feet high, which is pretty tall. Not as huge as those redwoods, but pretty tall. You'll see these things called nurse logs, these trees that have fallen over that are giving growth and cover to many other places, which is kind of cool because as it starts to decompose and rot away, other trees and other things can grow on those. So we know how that works with decomposers. Again, this dead wood, when the trees fall, it can take centuries to slowly decay back into the soil, but as they are decaying, they do provide habitat for moss. They provide a place to grow for other trees. They provide a food source for your fungi and small animals and amphibians and insects as well. And if you look, you can kind of see moss everywhere, and then all of this in here is ferns. Great growing area for both of those. Temperate rainforest animal adaptations. I know if you look at this, you're like, why is there a banana in the background, Mr. Bowens? That is not a banana. That is a banana slug. It's a banana slug. In the temperate rainforest, you'll find a lot of different animals. Most of them live on or near the forest floor. That's very different than the rainforest because a lot of our animals in the tropical rainforest lived up in the trees. Birds, small mammals like chipmunks that eat the seeds. Insects all over the place. They live in the trees and in the decomposing dead things and in the mossy areas. Birds love to eat these insects, obviously. Some of the small mammals like to. You'll see deer. You'll see bobcats. You'll see cougars. And cougars are one of the top predators in this biome. I know that anytime I was hiking when I was there, in most of the trails, they had warning signs for two animals, bears and cougars. And it is definitely something to see a bear in the wild, but seeing a cougar in the wild is a completely different story. Bears typically run from you. Cougars, on the other hand, sometimes they'll just sit and stare at you, which is really kind of creepy. There's other things in there. There's like black bears, but elk might be one of the most important, and we might even call them keystone species in the temperate rainforest. They are called the landscape gardeners of the Olympic National Forest. They run around through these forests, and they're big. Elk are huge. Eating and stomping around, and all of that eating and trampling down of the undergrowth is extremely important. If they didn't fill their niche, Hayden, of walking around and eating, and as they walk around, like they just start stomping down all sorts of plants because they're big. If they didn't do that, the rainforest would become a thicket, which is like really too overgrown with too many plants, and a lot of things would start to die out. But because they stomp around and they eat so much, they're very similar to those prairie dogs who allow other things to live in that area as well. Because they stomp around and they do so much, they are able to help the temperate rainforest stay in balance to maintain the carrying capacity for all of the different plants and animals that need to live there. For a while there, the elk were hunted and they became endangered. There's that word that we've used in class. And the rainforest started to really suffer because of that, but they've gone through some processes to help reintroduce more elk into the area and offer some more protections and some hunting seasons and things like that. Now the herd is steady and the rainforest is in more of a balance. All right, let's see if we can keep moving on here. Banana slugs. Now, obviously, this part of banana slugs is really more fun information. Because it is a very unique animal. This is kind of like, remember when I talked about mangrove trees? Banana slugs are very unique. Obviously, this one in the background looks like a banana that's been sitting there for a while. It's got black spots on it, right? They are yellow with black spots. They look just like a banana. They can be green, brown, and white. I did see a banana slug when I was hiking around the forest, and at first I did think someone had put a banana like on the railing of this hiking path. I did not know why they would do that. You can see here that their color adjusts based on the light exposure, their food intake, and the amount of moisture. So their environment helps shape them. They live on the forest floors along the coast, the Pacific coast of North America. They are decomposers. They chew up leaves. They eat animal droppings and dead plant material and recycle them into good soil and probably releasing some carbon and nitrogen in the process. They do have this disgusting, thick, slimy coating around their bodies. That helps keep them moist. If they're not moist, if they don't live in this environment, they're not going to live. If it's not moist, it can't exchange gases with the atmosphere, and we all know what happens if things stop breathing. They don't make it very long. The slime protects them from predators. They excrete this thick mucus, and they can blow themselves up to make themselves look larger. When the slime comes in contact with a moist surface, it produces an anesthetic, which causes the membranes to go numb. So if you are a dumb animal and you decide to eat a banana slug, it might feel like you just went to the dentist, like your whole mouth would be numb for a little while. The banana slug helps it move with this slime because it helps it kind of slide and move over things. Look at this. Some researchers are attempting to reproduce the slug slime, which is one of the best natural glues and may have a use in medicine. So again, it's interesting that we can study some of these animals in different plants in these different areas and come up with some pretty amazing things. And we'll come back. And if you're at home, you got to watch all this stuff on your own. Why you would not watch this one at home, I have no idea, because that one's pretty interesting. And that brings us to desert. So I'm going to come back to here, and we're going to pause, and I'm going to cover some of these notes for our folks at home really quickly. So if you look at this here, our temperate rainforest notes that we have on our anchor chart. Sun, soil, climate, and water. The sun is not as intense as the tropical rainforest with a capital R for some weird reason. Don't understand that. Because it's not located near the equator. Remember, this BC means because. The soil has to be great, right? Because look at all the plant life growing there. The plants have obviously adapted to all the different types of rain in there. It's the same stuff. The climate, long wet winters, short dry summers. If you're an animal, you need to adapt to that. But the temperatures there are fairly mild all the time. Water, lots of precipitation, 200 inches a year for like a giant year of rain, but 12 inches of that can come from fog, and that's kind of an amazing fact. Your biotic factors. If you're living there, whether you're a plant or an animal, you have to adapt to all that rain, right? You don't have really a whole lot of other stuff to cope with. You've got 2 seasons. So I guess I can put that in there, and 2 seasons. Trees, mosses, and ferns are some of the plant life we might see there. Bears, cougars, birds, insects, and banana slugs are things that we might see as well. And if we were going to be writing our paragraph about that, or 2 paragraphs in our Google Docs, which we will do in a few moments, I don't think you would have to spend a whole lot of time writing about that. But your banana slugs, just some of the facts about that could finish out your biotics paragraph, and you could move on, right? Not super hard to go over that. So we're going to stop the temperate rainforest video here. Pause, we'll watch the videos, and then we'll make another video about our deciduous forest, and we'll work on our other stuff as well. So